Life is a series of changes, and we don't often know what the future holds for us. So, it's best to take the scenic route. Be present with each life stage you are at, no matter your age, because there's no need to rush into being the person you are destined to be. I think that when you hit your 30s, you hit a reset button. I think that this period of time is where you really get to learn more about yourself, and a lot of the, I'm gonna say, trials and tribulations you had in your 20s don't affect you as much, but I think the lessons you learn in your 30s kind of like hit harder, if that makes any sense. How I discovered myself in my 30s, it's actually through a lot of different ways. I think a lot of it has to do with just understanding more about myself, reading a lot more, doing things with more intention. I think that it's this area of your life where you get to do a lot more self-exploration, and because of that, you're a lot more intentional. Your friend circle may even get smaller because you're more intentional with what you do and what you surround yourself with. I feel like we don't have it all figured out all the time. And I think that when you hit your 30s, there's a lot of questions that may be coming into your mind, like, what am I doing? Where am I going? Where's my career headed? Like, etc. And I think that it's very real. It's a very real thing to think about. And when I was in my 20s, I wasn't thinking about the future. I wasn't thinking about retirement. I wasn't thinking about any of those things. But when you're in your 30s, I just think that things kind of feel more real. How I understand myself is how I've been navigating my 30s, and everything that I've learned in my teens and in my 20s is what is navigating my 30s. Teen Brittany experienced a lot of things. I experienced grief for the first time. I moved away to college for the first time. I did a lot of things for the first time within those years, and I think without that foundational work in trying things, I feel like I would not have led my 30s in the way that I'm leading them now. I thank my past self for being courageous and being like, I'm just gonna do this thing that I wanna do, because now in my 30s, I feel like I still have that youthful spirit that is leading me to doing things that excite me, things that scare me, things that I probably never would have expected myself to do. But because I was courageous and brave back then, I feel like I can be courageous and brave now. If you're in your 30s, welcome. It's a vibe. The water's fine. Just welcome yourself in, okay? So being in your 30s is an experience. And if you are discovering yourself in your 30s, congratulations, okay? Because we all are. Some different ways that you can discover yourself in your 30s is to take into account what you experienced in your teens and in your 20s, even early childhood, and just take notice of it, right? You don't have to dive too deep into it, but just notice how you felt during your teen years, how you felt during your 20s. What were some major decisions you made during those points in your life? Were they good? Were they bad? Etc. Just take a notice, almost do like a life audit. Like, just look back at what you experienced and see the connections to who you are now. And these can be good things, these could be bad things, these could be things that transformed you. This isn't to say that you have to be a completely different person than who you were, but take into account what has led you to where you are now. Maybe you decided to make a career pivot in your 20s and now you're doing something completely different that you actually enjoy. Like, take those things into account, because your past self is really guiding your future self. I know that sounds like super weird, but it's true. I really think that our past self is laying the groundwork for who we are now. I think another thing you could do in your 30s to help you discover more about yourself is actually to spend a lot more time alone. And I know we like to be around our friends, we like to be around our family, etc. But I want to say being in my 30s is probably the most amount of time I've spent by myself. And whoo, what a journey it is, okay? Just knowing yourself, being your own best friend, like it's real out here. So when you are spending time with yourself, you're able to understand yourself more. You're able to self-soothe yourself if you're like going through it. Because sometimes I be going through it and I'm like, who's here? Me. So I have to learn how to take care of myself, bring myself up if I'm feeling down, etc. I would encourage you, if you're in your 30s, to spend time alone. Take yourself out on dates, like go on solo trips, like really take advantage of this time. Maybe you have a partner right now, or maybe you are married, or maybe you are single. Whatever stage of life you're in, it's okay to still take time for yourself. And I think that this is just the perfect time to do it. You know, especially if you can find the time to just be by yourself. This is huge. It's a huge way to know yourself, and it's a huge way to discover more about who you are. I just finished watching one of my favorite shows on Netflix. It's called Valeria. It is very hitting because she is in her 30s and all of her friends are in her 30s. So I highly recommend watching it. It's a wonderful, wonderful show. And something that hit me towards the end of the show, she's going through all these life experiences, like dating, breakups, all her friends are experiencing the same things. They came across this woman who was having a yard sale and she was selling some of her things. And she said to them, life is a series of changes. Just soak it in. Life is a series of changes. And she goes on to say that she dedicated her life to having adventure. And even in her older age, she was saying, if I dedicate myself to living a life of adventure, I'm going to live a full life. Like that just hit me because we don't really think about that sometimes. Like I don't know what age she was, but considering that, like when I'm a grandmother, I want to know I lived a life of adventure, of fun, of bliss. And in my 30s is like, yeah, I'm going to live it up. I'm going to do all the things I want to do because someday I'll wake up 40, 50, 60 and be like, wow, like I'm so glad that I dedicated my life towards adventure. As we get wiser, changes are going to happen. Changes are going to be just a natural occurrence. And that is going to continue even in your 30s. So we have to get used to the changes. We have to embrace the changes because things are going to change around you, but things are also going to change inside of you. You're not the same person you were in your 20s or your teens. You're whoever you are now in your 30s. So embracing each season of your life, embracing who you are all throughout life. Because if we can stay present with that, if we can stay present with who we are in this present moment, we will always be able to embrace being alive and being filled with life. I am dedicating my life to adventure. I think that quote just really resonated with me, and I just completely agree. I think that if I dedicate my life towards adventure, I will look back when I'm 40, 50, 60 and see, wow, Brittany, you did a lot of great things. Like you lived a full life. That's what I want to look back on, is me living a full life. So while you're in your 30s, live a full life. Do the things that you're afraid of doing. Travel to places that you want to travel to. Don't hold yourself back from doing those things. There's a reason why you're interested in it. There's a reason why you keep looking up tickets to go to Costa Rica. There's a reason why, okay? Just embrace it, embrace the changes, embrace who you are, because it's all just an unfolding of discovering more about yourself.